Aloha! We're here in Honolulu, Hawaii for the Plant Biology 17th Annual Conference. I'm your host, Rishi Masalia, and we're Between the Palms. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Between the Palms. Today I am joined by Miguel. Miguel, can you tell me what you do at Monsanto?
Sure. So I'm currently a genome editing deployment scientist in the breeding organization, but I joined Monsanto through a very interesting program called Emerging Leaders in Science.
Okay.
So this program actually targets scientists outside of industry, so you cannot be a current employee at Monsanto to actually be part of it.
Okay.
So you get to apply, you get a very intensive interview, and then the cool thing is that once you're in, you get to experience Monsanto doing 3 rotations in 3 different areas of our R&D organization.
Okay.
So currently I have completed 3 of those rotations. Towards the end of this year, I'll be having my landing role, which will be my permanent role at Monsanto.
Okay.
But throughout the program, I'll be getting leadership exposure, leadership skills development, how to become a better manager of people, manager of projects. So it's a really cool way to get into industry.
So in terms of your day-to-day at Monsanto, what are you actually doing at Monsanto? Are you just managing projects? Are you actually in the lab? How does this work?
So it depends on the role. So my first role, for example, I was in the lab.
Okay.
Doing quite a bit of research.
This is like straight up benchwork, pipetting?
Benchwork, pipetting, cloning, you name it.
Right.
Working with bacteria, cool stuff like that.
Okay.
But my next roles were more into the strategy aspect.
Okay.
Leading by influence, managing projects.
Okay.
So basically enabling a process to occur and work seamlessly. And it's a little vague, but in industry you end up wear different hats, right?
Right.
So it's very pipeliney, as you can imagine, and then at that point you end up using resources to get the work done through others sometimes.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the beauty aspects of working at a company like that. We have all the expertise available. Just think about a gigantic university campus or department that is available for you to actually use and to enable your research.
Right.
And vice versa. Once they get to know you, you also become a resource for others. And that's how kind of the day-to-day is.
So you had mentioned this is like a pipeline, so you have segments. As a project manager, do you manage just one aspect of the pipeline, or do you span multiple aspects, or does it follow, like, do you follow a project, or how does this?
Right, so it's pretty interesting because in the current role that I'm in, we're actually learning how to enable this process.
Okay.
But it's something that hasn't been established yet at the company, so we're kind of pioneering ways to develop this to work seamlessly. So I currently manage a specific project that we're using as a proof of concept to enable future products within this new pipeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I love to ask plant scientists, because I love stories and I love people's stories. How did you actually become involved in plant science? What made young Miguel figure, okay, I'm going to study plants now for a career?
Yeah, so it started, I think, for me way back in actually high school. I had a very good biology teacher when I was in high school, and she basically ignited this passion for research and experimentation. Okay. But at the time, plants were not something that I was really that much interested in. I wanted to work in the biomedical field. So I went to university. I knew that I wanted to be a biologist. I wanted to work with molecules. I wanted to work with DNA, proteins, things like that. So I started doing an internship towards the end of my undergrad in a human genetics lab. And I hated it. I just could not stand working with blood. It was awful.
So you learned really quickly, like, all right, nope, this is not for me.
Exactly.
I need to find something else.
Yes, and luckily the thing is that I had to do an undergraduate thesis to graduate. So there was a posting on the board of this place called the International Potato Center. Okay. So this is an institute that works in aspects of various crops. So there's different institutes. There's one that's devoted to rice. There's one devoted to maize.
Where did you do your undergraduate education?
In Ecuador.
Okay.
of a Catholic University of Ecuador.
Okay.
So that's where I got my undergrad. But the focus was really on basic science. We didn't have an agronomy department in my university, so I didn't know about the potential to working with plants other than doing taxonomy or ecology in the rainforest, things like that. So when I discovered that they were looking for a project to look at population genetics of a plant pathogen, I was intrigued. I said, well, I can actually do molecular biology in an organism that is not a human,
That's not
cell or human
bleed
system
on me.
or cancer. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when I got hooked, basically, because this allowed me to discover the application of science in agriculture to drive, either improve disease resistance for crops, and that's when like I said, I got hooked with plant pathology, with plant molecular biology, and the applications to an interface with agriculture. So I did my thesis there, worked for a year, looking for graduate opportunities. I was looking either in Europe or United States. Managed to get accepted at Ohio State University for a master's degree, so I did that in plant
Ohio
pathology.
State University.
The Ohio State University. So that was cool. I was working in Phytophthora, root rot, trying to characterize partial resistance in soybean for this disease. And then I realized I really wanted to be a molecular biologist. So for my PhD, I moved to a lab that did more of a functional genomics type of work. So I worked in rice for the first time. And then that has been my career since then. Since then. So I don't work in rice currently at Monsanto, but up until joining
Monsanto, you worked in rice.
For my PhD, using rice as a model system to understand various processes from disease resistance, programmed cell death, and then after my PhD was plant cell walls and biofuel productions.
So you work in ag industry at Monsanto.
Currently, yeah.
And a lot of folks who are younger scientists, graduate students, undergraduates, or postdocs, are interested in pursuing careers at ag industry at various companies, Monsanto being one of them. Do you have any advice or tips that you can give them to help them get where they want to go?
Sure. So I think my example is a little peculiar because I actually did not think industry was an option for me, or was an interest.
Why not?
I think it's because I was going really the academic route, right? Publishing, doing a postdoc, getting a faculty position somewhere, or a researcher
That was the traditional mindset, right?
The traditional mindset, but then what kind of clicked with me is that when I joined, so I left grad school to start my postdoc, I joined the Joint Bioenergy Institute. So this institute is very interesting because it was funded in 2007, I believe, by the Department of Energy, one of three big bioenergy research centers to enable the development of a biofuels industry, of the cellulosic biofuel industry. So very mission-oriented type of program, and very focused. Right, so we were all housed in one building in California, in the Bay Area. We were hired by different institutions that were partners in this endeavor, and you were working in your area of expertise, but with the common goal of developing a biofuels industry. So I was interacting not only with plant biologists, but with chemical engineers, with metabolic engineering.
So you got this whole suite of collaborations.
And then I think that was a really good school for me to transition to a company like Monsanto, when the day-to-day work is really interdisciplinary. It's very
similar to that.
Team-based. You have to be able to work with people of various backgrounds, of various scientific knowledge and backgrounds. So I think for me that was a key training that allowed me to be a good candidate to come to industry.
So you're saying, so some advice for students would be to go out and see collaborations and go be a part of a team rather than doing it yourself.
Demonstrate that you can actually work outside of the lab boundaries. Focused on your bench and doing your work is fine. I mean, you need to deliver.
Good science is foundational, but
but I think show that you actually are able to collaborate, that you're able to drive projects that involve convincing people that there's different ways of getting at the same answer. So developing those type of skills and actually being able to show examples that you can do this. So developing your soft skills in addition to having a very good technical background.
So I've heard a lot about soft skills. It's something that somebody told me a couple of years ago, and I've worked really hard to develop my own soft skills. So in your opinion, I have my own opinions about what soft skills are, but in your opinion, what are some soft skills that students or postdocs can focus on?
I think for my perspective, the soft skills of being a good communicator, being able to explain your view of science or your project to people that are non-experts helps a lot, because you're going to have to use scientists or techniques that are not in your wheelhouse. You need to convince others that not only they need to align with how you're thinking the project should go, but at the same time understand what they're doing so you can actually be a good fit, right? So an example I can give you is I was working with a biophysicist who had no knowledge of plant biology, and I was bringing the plant biology and cell wall expertise, and we collaborated together to develop ways to study the structure of the cell wall.
Okay.
Right. So she had those skills in the biophysical aspect, but very little knowledge of biology, even though she thought before that she knew enough biology because she had the biophysics, and then in my case, I was just terrified about anything that was not related to biology, right? So we were able to actually collaborate and publish at least 2 to 3 papers together. So it was really nice experience. And so again, be open to doing stuff outside of what you would think is traditionally expected of you, right? Seek out those interactions with folks outside your area of expertise and your area of comfort, and be able to mesh things that seem at some point incompatible, and show ways that you can work together with different areas of knowledge, right? I think that's another advice I would give folks is make sure you challenge yourself and be able to have examples to show that you have challenged yourself. So this industry is really looking for that type of agile person that can work on very many different projects, that can lead different teams. If the focus of the research gets deprioritized, you're going to have to be agile and very quickly shift to a different area of focus. So if you can actually do this very well, you're going to be very successful in the industry. So any examples that you can provide.
So how do you showcase those examples? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine when you're applying for a job at like a company like Monsanto, one of the main things you provide to people who look at the applications is a CV and maybe a cover letter. How do you best showcase that you have all these soft skills in something like a CV? Because publications is really easy. You just list the publications.
Correct.
If somebody wants to go look, they can go look at what they are, right? You have letters of recommendation. You can read a letter of recommendation. How do you showcase soft skills?
So what I would recommend is just basically put things that you've achieved. Metrics of things that you have enabled or improved in the process, and kind of be intentional about giving information that you otherwise wouldn't put on a CV, right? So
just make it obvious, essentially.
Yeah, a little very obvious, so we can walk through the person that is going to be reading your CV or your resume, that you actually have examples of things that they may be looking for.
Okay. So you can say, for instance, like Rishi Masalia, communication, ability to talk to scientists outside of their field, for example, between the palms. Right.
This is something that I've done, that I've pioneered for ASPV or something, and this is the impact. Right. So always try to give back.
Give the impact as well.
So what you think is the impact, and be able to articulate that very well. Okay. So I didn't know that I was doing that when I wrote my own resume to apply for industry, but then I got the feedback later. It was like, well, you did really well because you actually were able to show
all of these things.
Okay. And in the case for the program we're in, which is a leadership-based program, so they were looking for people with a leadership potential, right? So they wanted to gauge that in the interviews. So I'll also show that you've been able to have some leadership responsibilities. Either if you've led a team, if you've mentored undergraduates when you were a graduate student, if you have traveled abroad to learn new techniques, things like that, more of a well-rounded type of approach.
Of a researcher,
and try to differentiate yourself from the bunch, right, from the rest of the pool, because that's going to be key to land you the interview, right? I think one thing I like to always say to people that ask me about careers in industry is, okay, your technical skills, your publication will get you the interview. Right. So
it's the interview that sells you.
Right. Yeah. Once you interview with a company and you show your soft skills and you actually show what you can do and deliver, and how you've overcome challenges, because we all have challenges in your research, 70% or more of the things that we do to never get into a publication, right? So I think that's
true.
And we want to know about that. How do you deal with with projects that fail, that you had to say to your advisor, basically, I can't work on this anymore. It's not working.
You can't
let's
you can't like
be
flip the
focused,
table.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think those are aspects of how you deal with adversity
Right.
are very, very critical.
Okay.
Because you're going to find that in industry or anywhere you go.
Right.
Right?
And they
So-
want to make sure that you can actually see that through and go past
Absolutely.
that.
That you can actually, you don't get stuck when things don't work out the way
Right.
that you expected them or that you think that they should go, all right?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Between the Palms. Miguel,
All right,
thank you
great.
so much,
Oh,
and
my
we'll catch
pleasure.
you next time.